I think in every time and era, there's a certain space for every kind of character, every kind of actor. But in the tens, there was a definite void of an actor who was also a character at the same time. And it was something new in the tens, especially in 2012 when Vicky Dono happened, that protagonist was there in an unconventional film which did commercially well.
Right.
It was never the norm in the past, so I think that was the only difference. But yeah, I'll be very honest. In 2008, when I came to Bombay for the first time, Ranbir Kapoor made his debut, and there was this void of actors in their 20s. Like most of the actors were in their 30s or 40s. There was no young actor in the 2000s, and Ranbir made the entry. I was like, "Ab to ye aa gaya, main kya karunga?" Then Ranveer Singh happened in 2010 or 11. मैंने कहा अब ये भी आ गया, मैं क्या करूँगा? So I had no option but to tread the unconventional path. And fortunately it worked for me because Shujit Sarkar saw something in me. I was an anchor on television. So he was like, yahi hai. So I was like, okay. So I didn't even audition for that film. So yeah, I was quite fortunate like that. I was very secure in my own skin. I was a television presenter that time. And that was a time when I was interviewing actors and I was learning from them their mistakes or their successes or whatever they used to do. So I had this notion in my head that अगर मेरी पहली picture नहीं चली तो मुझे दूसरा मौका नहीं मिलेगा. And I had gotten like 6 chances before. I was like, but it didn't resonate with me, the script. But Vicky Dono was such a breath of fresh air. And Shujit Sarkar was such a not commercial director, but a very credible director. And I always thought that this film will earn a lot of credibility. But commercial success was beyond expectations. It was just a windfall. I have built the entire career of mine on risks. I just cannot not take risks. I can't really see myself in a typical commercial pot boiler. I don't know. I've always been an unconventional actor. So I had to take risks. The only trip in life is just to do something which is out of the box and novel, and probably the first attempt in Hindi cinema. Throughout the filmography, it's been the norm कि ये पहली ऐसी film होनी चाहिए. So it's that trip in my head, I guess. I don't know. I don't think about the outcome of the film, but I only think about it to be engaging, entertaining. But number one priority is it should be the first step towards that direction. Yeah, most of my films are with first-time directors. Even last two, Dr. G and Action Hero, first-time directors. I don't know. I really think that the kind of risk-taking capability of a first-time director is far more than a seasoned one. And the kind of scripts that I get, they by default they are with the first-time directors. So I don't know. It's also I think about the budgeting of the film. My films are not like mounted at 100 crore scale or something like that. So the success of the film depends on the budget. So they're always within a budget, and it's easy to do the budget with the first-time director also. So it's just more practical. So already the script, the subject is novel and it's risky, as I say, out of syllabus for Bollywood. So it has to be in a certain budget. So it just works out well. I never thought like that. Probably it's a default setting. It's by default, I think, not by design purely. I just focus on one film at a time. That this film should be of a certain space and, it should engage the audience in a certain way, or maybe give some intrigue. And I know that there were back-to-back 7, 8 commercial successes. All were unconventional. But I never thought that I'll be making a genre for myself, like it will be called an Ayushmann Khurrana genre. It's too much to think about. I just take one film at a time. I was doing my own thing. That's it. I think this conspiracy theory is changing every film after pandemic. Like initially, people were thinking only big-ticket films will work. Then they were thinking, no, now Kantara has also happened. And then Drishyam 2 happened. Then we were thinking only franchises will work after Bhool Bhulaiyaa 2 and Drishyam 2. But I think if you go out there to make an engaging film which appeals to a larger segment of audiences, I think you are home. So we're all in that self-discovery phase after pandemic. And I think if it's made within budget and released at a good time and space, I think it'll have its own share. Yeah, I think, again, I'll go back to my first answer where I had to just use my own space, and there was a certain void of that kind of a protagonist who was not larger than life, who was real, who was imperfect at the same time. And I made that route mine. So it's the timing. Yeah, I seized it maybe. So even moving forward, I'm not really obsessed with my own character. I'm just obsessed with the stories as a whole. I may not be the main driver of the story. The characters around me are also very, very strong. Be it somebody like Jaideep Alav in Action Hero, or Rajkumar Rao in Bareli Ki Barfi, Gajraj Rao in Badhai Ho, Bhumi Pednekar in Dam Laga Ke Aisha, Tabu in Andhadhun, Neena Gupta also in Badhai Ho. So it's well rounded, not just
about you. Exactly.
It's about the story. So I think stories excite me. I don't think I can do anything differently. I have like no regrets or nothing. I just move on very quickly. I'm very detached as an actor, which is very important to be detached, because if you're doing 3 films a year and you're attached to your character, you just can't. It's too much of a baggage. I was shooting Andhadhun and Badhai Ho simultaneously.
Right.
2 different films, 2 different genres. A guy next door in Delhi and probably a pop musician in Pune. So I think there were 2 different characters, and it was not easy if you are taking that character home. So it's very important to be detached. I think Ayan Ranjan in Article 15. That's the only film which has a certain dark tonality out of all my films.
Right.
I think that was something new to me. I was introduced fresh to casteism, and that was something which was really affected me at a personal level. And I think that throughout the shoot of Article 15, I was not in my like regular chirpy self.
Right.
Because it was too much, and I think I'm glad I was introduced to that world and to that realm, and I'm glad it was also a first induction for the audiences, Hindi cinema goers, in a commercial space on casteism.
Right.
And moving forward, of course, there'll be there'll be more representation, not in terms of just the films, but also the actors and the directors and technicians. Always, I think when you have lived in experience of a character, it becomes easier.
Right.
Andhadhun and Article 15, these were the 2 films which I had no lived in experience. So you put in more homework or extra work, and there's certain method to it. But I used to be a method actor in college when I used to do theatre. But over the years, when I started anchoring, did radio, journalism, I started believing in my gut and intuition. I started reacting more than acting. It really depends on the actor who's in front of you. So you just can't over-prepare. But certain films, yes, like Anek or Article 15, Andhadhun. Action Hero also to some extent, because that was like my first in action and in that world. I'm not that person at all. What I've learned from the pandemic is that I may not do taboo subjects on celluloid. If it's relatable, it has to be quirky for sure. An action hero, as I said, I'm not really obsessed by making myself look different on screen, on celluloid, but it has to be a different story for people.
Right.
And action hero was relatable, it was topical, it was me versus them, like whatever happened, boycott Bollywood in the past couple of years, everything was there in that film.
It was a masala film.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so it was very different. It was very exciting for me, I think.
Yeah.
Of course it was. That's why it required a lot of homework. While I was shooting for Dr. G, I was preparing for Action Hero. I was taking MMA training and everything.
Right.
And since I'm not that person who's... Action Hero, I think that star in the film, Manav, is very self-obsessed. He's arrogant also at the same time. And he goes beyond self-awareness. So that was not me. So it required a lot of homework. And it was a welcome change for me. But even now, if I get a social comedy, which is fresh and which is entertaining, I'll just go for it.
I mean, your films are anyway shocking subject-wise for us, and then you push it a step further.
I recently did that with Action Hero. So I don't know, moving forward, I would love to do something which is again different. And it was my first, brush with action, and would love to do that again in future as well. There is no rule, I think. To break the rules, you should know the rule to begin with.
But you've rewritten the rules. You have, right?
It's just not me. I think after Vicky Donor, there was a certain void of certain kind of scripts. I could not really touch that benchmark for another 2-3 years. It started happening with Dam Laga Ke Aisha. So the onus also goes on to the script writers and the directors who believed in me, and there were no commercial actors ready to do that film or genre.
Right.
So they had no choice. So I guess
it had to be you.
Yeah. So I'm glad it happened.
Right.
And in future as well, I would love to explore something which is novel, out of the box, and the first attempt in Hindi cinema.
Yeah.
I keep it simple. I just don't try too hard. I wanted to be as organic and flowy as possible. And also the camaraderie with my co-actors. There's no insecurity because I come from a theatre background, and when you do theatre, you're also ready to do roles which are cameos. For example, Gulabo Sitabo, for example. I take it like a theatre workshop. My mentor, Sujit Sarkar, he directed that film. He asked me for that film. I was like, there was no way I can say no to him.
Right.
So even if Bachchan Saab is taking the mantle and he's taking it forward, I'm ready to be just like a fly on the wall. So you can't just take that out of me.
What about the quirk that never leaves you?
As I said, I have no option but to be risky, and I think taboo is one thing I can get rid of for a while, but not the quirk.
Okay.
I have to stay with that. There's a notion that a lot of people think that people who are consumers of art, they're also creators of art. They are not.
Right.
Like if you consume a lot of films, you have a lot of knowledge about films, and but that doesn't mean you can create.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So to be an actor or an artist, you need to live life. They're all lived in experiences. You need to meet different kind of people. Go out there, go to smaller cities, interact with people. I make it as an exercise when I shoot in smaller cities. I make friends with the driver or local production guy over there. उनके घर से खाना मंगवाता हूँ, उनसे बात करता हूँ, उनसे क्रिकेट खेलता हूँ, ताकि उनकी ज़िंदगी के बारे में कुछ पता चले. Like otherwise we live in a void. We live in that bubble कि हम actor बन गए and there's no growth per se. So it gives you fodder for the characters you're playing on screen. So of course you need to watch films, but you cannot be consumed by watching films. But yeah, coming back to music,
Right.
I think music is my first love. I discover a new artist every single day.
Yeah.
And I love indie music. I love ghazals, Sufi, every kind of genre.
Your taste in music is also very eclectic, right? You would tell me. These new artists you keep discovering.
I do.
Yes.
मैं फिल्मों के बिना रह सकता हूँ, मैं म्यूजिक के बिना नहीं रह सकता. I was blessed that I started a theatre group in Chandigarh called Aaghaaz and Manch Tantra. We were like 15 odd driven students, and we used to travel length and breadth of the country, and we were just 18, 19-year-olds. So that also makes me better with Indian languages, because every 10 kilometers the language changes, and you meet people from like the lowest common denominator and you interact with them. So the induction was very early in life.
Right.
So I think it really helped.
And does that draw your interest?
I think it's a renaissance. It's a huge revolution, not the we are in renaissance right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a creative renaissance of sorts. When you talk about OTT, I think it's like IPL. There's emerging talent, and there's space for a lot of people, and there's great talent out there, and all we need to do is choose the correct medium for a correct project.
Right.
That's the learning from the pandemic. But I think I love OTT, whatever is happening there, especially I recently watched Jubilee. My brother's there.
Yeah,
so I'm so proud of him, and I loved everything about that show. And that's the only thing. And no medium is small, be it television, radio. अगर आप एक artist हैं, आप theatre पे भी खुश हैं perform करके. So if you're an artist, you should just be there in any medium. It doesn't really matter.